Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Nashtiprayeshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, Prithu Maharaj's meeting with the four Kumaras, text number 24 onwards. So Sanat Kumar is further speaking to Prithu Maharaj. Ahinsaya paramahansaya charyaya smritya mukunda charita grasidhuna yamer kamer niyamashchapi nindaya nirihaya dvandva titikshaya cha. A candidate for spiritual advancement. Somebody is not muted. Please look at. A candidate for spiritual advancement must be non-violent, must follow in the footsteps of great acharyas, must always remember the nectar of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, must follow the regulative principles without material desire, and while following the regulative principles should not blaspheme others. A devotee should lead a very simple life and not be disturbed by the duality of opposing elements. He should learn to tolerate them. So further qualities of devotees are mentioned that we should develop, we should cultivate these qualities. The devotees are actually saintly persons or sadhus. Sadhu, not just in the name sadhu. Sadhu means, just like 9th canto, there's a beautiful word, sadhva sadhu bhushana. That the qualities of a sadhu or his guna or the qualities are actually his bhushana or his jewelry, his ornaments. A sadhu is known by his qualities, not by the color of dress he wears or if he's doing some yoga and tapasya and whatever. No, the qualities. Just like there was a story is there was a yogi and he sat under a tree and he was doing his tapasya. And naturally on the trees there are many times birds are there, so a bird was there and the bird passed stool and it happened to fall on the head of that yogi. And the yogi, his tapasya got disturbed, so and he looked up and there was a bird. And he got angry at the bird and he just looked at the bird angrily and the flame of fire came out of his Ajna Chakra between the eyebrows and the bird died and fell down dead on the ground. And the yogi was very happy, thinking that I got so much of power. But that's not the job of a yogi or tapasvi. Naturally, this is the bird's job. Bird is doing her work by sitting and passing stool. That's her place, that's her house. So the qualities, so these inherent qualities is what makes one a sadhu. The first qualification of a sadhu or devotee is ahimsa or non-violence. Persons interested in the path of devotional service or in going back home, back to Godhead, must first practice ahimsa or non-violence. A sadhu is described as titikshva karunika. A devotee should be tolerant and should be very much compassionate towards others. For example, if he suffers personal injury, he should tolerate it. But if someone else suffers injury, the devotee need not tolerate it. The whole world is full of violence, and the devotee's first business is to stop this violence, including the unnecessary slaughter of animals. A devotee is a friend not only of human society, but of all living entities, for he sees all living entities as the sons of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He does not claim himself to be the only Son of God and allow all others to be killed, thinking that they have no soul. This kind of philosophy is never advocated by a pure devotee of the Lord. Suhrida Sarvadehinam. A true devotee is a friend of all living entities. Krishna claims in Bhagavad Gita to be the father of all species of living entities. Consequently, the devotee of Krishna is always a friend of all. This is called ahimsa. Such non-violence can be practiced only when we follow in the footsteps of great acharyas. Therefore, according to our Vaishnava philosophy, we have to follow the great acharyas of the four sampradayas or disciplic succession. So first quality is non-violence. And Prabhupada explains non-violence, one should tolerate, a sadhu tolerates when somebody, when he suffers personal injury, but he cannot tolerate if somebody else is injured or injury both physical or mental or emotional injury. But a devotee for himself he tolerates. And then Prabhupada talks about the slaughterhouses or killing of animals. That is, killing of animals for meat eating, that's the worst kind of killing. Because the animals, they are helpless beings. And we raise them. They think we are their friends, we are their maintainers, we are their protectors. And then all of a sudden we just kill them to eat them. It's a gross, very gross type of eating. And any religion that recommends it, that's not even religion actually. It cannot be. If there is so much of hinsa, so much of violence going on in the name of religion, that cannot be religion. I mean, if somebody wants to eat animal, don't kill them in the name of religion. Just kill them and eat them, and then suffer the consequences. At least the religion will not get a bad name. So these qualities of a sadhu is what makes one sadhu. Devotee should be tolerant and should be very much compassionate. In fact, in regards to this, there is a nice story. When Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they were living in Vrindavan, and they were writing books. They were busy writing books and revealing the places of pastimes of Krishna and guiding others. So Jiva Goswami, who was their nephew, he was also living with them. And Jiva Goswami was a little boy at that time. And he used to serve them, do some menial services in the kitchen, cooking or cleaning for them. Although Jiva Goswami is a very, very big scholar, he has written the most number of books and the number of shlokas that I think he has written, if somebody was telling me, 100,000 shlokas. Different books, but if you combine them all, it comes to 100,000 shlokas. So Jiva Goswami was there serving. So there was one Digvijay Pandit came to Vrindavan. And his thing was, whoever he would defeat, he would get that person sign on the piece of paper that Digvijay Pandit has defeated me. I accepted defeat from him. And then the custom was the person who is defeated would lose all his money and everything. and they would just hand it over to Digvijay Pandit. So Digvijay Pandit happened to come to Vrindavan, and he had heard of the glories of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. So he came to debate with Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And when he came, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they saw him, they had heard about him, and they said it's a sheer wastage of our time if we are going to argue with such a proud person who doesn't. Pride means one has not understood the scriptures. Bhagavad Gita says, Vidya Vinay Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini. So Vidya and Vinay, they both go together. So Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, they said, Digvijay Pandit, we cannot stand in front of you. We don't stand anywhere in front of you. You're the Pandit. You've conquered all the whole world. So we cannot have any shastras with you because we are not in the same league. So Digvijay Pandit was very happy, and his ego was even more boosted, and he said, okay, if you accept defeat, sign the paper. That's it, that you accept the defeat. So they happily signed. Rupa Goswami, Sanatana, they happily signed, and they said, please, you carry on with your procession somewhere else. We accept defeat. So Digvijay Pandit came out after meeting Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, and while he was going to his procession, he happened to meet Jiva Goswami on his way out. And he was very happy, Digvijay Pandit, that, oh, I have defeated Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. I have defeated Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And Jiva Goswami heard that. He said, what? What in the world are you talking about? You defeated Rupa and Sanatana Goswami? Digvijay Pandit said, yes, see this paper, this certificate they had signed? Jiva Goswami said, okay, but let's talk about scriptures first. Digvijay said, who are you? He said, Jiva Goswami said, I'm just a cook, I'm just a servant of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. So why don't you argue? Why don't you let's discuss first the scriptures? And if you defeat me, then I'll believe that you have defeated Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. Digvijay Pandit said, what, this little boy who's just a mere cook, and I have to argue with him? But anyway, he was challenged, so he could not give up the challenge. And Jiva Goswami just defeated him, left and right, in very short time. And he said, just give me that paper which Rupa and Sanatana Goswami has signed. I don't want you to carry that paper around. You keep your wealth and go away. Don't ever come back to Vrindavan. So anyway, Rupa Goswami, after a few days, he found out that Jiva Goswami happened to waste his time in arguing or in discussing with that Pandit. So Rupa Goswami called Jiva Goswami to his room, to his hut. And he said, a person who's proud of his knowledge, proud of his beauty, proud of his whatever opulence he has no place, no position in Vrindavan. He cannot live in Vrindavan. You get out of here. And Jiva Goswami was a little boy, and all he did was save the reputation of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. But he was ordered to get out. So he left the ashram. But he didn't go out of Vrindavan, he just went to a place. So Sanatana Goswami, when he came back, he was on Madhukari. He came back and Rupa Goswami told him, I've kicked Jiva Goswami out, this is what has happened. So Sanatana Goswami was sad, but he was waiting for the right time. So anyway, one day, just like Sanatana Goswami would go to different households for Madhukari to beg for some food. So he went to a village one day, and everybody knew Sanatana Goswami Braj. Everybody would treat him like as their father. So Sanatan Goswami was at the door of a house and he asked for some food. So the lady was little busy. And Sanatan Goswami was standing at the door, and after a while, Sanatan Goswami asked again, "Oh Maya, have you forgotten me? I'm still waiting." And the lady, the Brajvasis, how they talk, she got angry. What kind of Baba you are? You have no control over on yourself. And we have a Baba here who doesn't even ask for anything. He is even better Baba than you are. And now Sanatan Goswami was thinking, Maya, what are we talking about? Who is this Baba? I don't know of any other Baba in this village. Oh, yes, there is a Baba. He lives in the cave near Yamuna and he doesn't even come out to beg. We all go and give him. And he's always doing his bhajan. He's not as intolerant as you are. So Sanatan Goswami said, let me go and see this Baba that you're talking about. So he went to that cave and it was Jiva Goswami sitting there. So anyway, so Sanatan Goswami brought him back and he made Rupa Goswami forgive him and back to his services. But the point is, these qualities of the sadhus is what make them sadhu. And although a sadhu or a devotee or a saintly person or a really advanced saintly person, he never ever even claimed that he has those qualities. That makes them even more beautiful. So further Prabhupada says, trying to advance in spiritual life outside the disciplic succession is simply ludicrous. It is said, therefore, Acharyavan Purusho Veda. One who follows the disciplic succession of Acharyas knows things as they are. Tad Vijnanartham Sagurum Eva Avigachet. In order to understand the transcendental science, one must approach the bona fide spiritual master. The word smritya is very important in spiritual life. Smritya means remembering Krishna always. Okay, so before that, so Acharyavan Purusha Veda. So one must accept a guru to make progress. Otherwise, we will be just making our own ways, own mantras, own process, and thinking that I'm making progress. Might not be. So always one has to take shelter of a bona fide guru. In India, even over here, there are so many paths, so many so-called gurus, and they have their so many followers, they have their own mantras that they chant, and they think they're making progress. Because our Guruji had a dream and he saw Krishna or he saw the Lord, and this is what the Lord gave him, and he has given it to us very mercifully. There might be people with good intentions, but they're completely misguided. If this is what Prabhupada says, trying to advance in spiritual life outside the disciplic succession is simply ludicrous. But even in the disciplic succession, one has to be very careful. There could be people outwardly they are in the disciplic succession, but if they are not following properly their own guru, like in Gaudiya Vaishnavism also, there's so many up-sampradayas. They all look like Gaudiya Vaishnava, they all chant like Gaudiya Vaishnava, but sometimes they have their different mantras, sometimes they have a different lifestyle. That could also be very misleading. But then the question is, how do we know who's the true one? So at least in ISKCON, Prabhupada is there, Prabhupada's books are there. So we are very fortunate that we have the right guidance. But other than that, one should always pray. One can pray to Krishna. One can pray to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu. Please take me to the right guru. Please take me to the right person. I don't know anything. And they will guide. Prabhupada, pray to Prabhupada. Prabhupada will guide. But without a bona fide guru, there's no way we can make advancement. And as I said, reading Prabhupada's books and just following Prabhupada's instructions, that's wonderful mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he has given us. Smritya means remembering Krishna always. Life should be molded in such a way that one cannot remain alone without thinking of Krishna. We should live in Krishna so that while eating, sleeping, walking, and working, we remain only in Krishna. Remain only in Krishna means remain only in Krishna consciousness, always remain absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna, talks of Krishna, Krishna's name. Our Krishna Consciousness Society recommends that we arrange our living so that we can remember Krishna. In our ISKCON society, the devotees, while engaged in making spiritual sky incense, are also hearing about the glories of Krishna or his devotees. So there was a business Prabhupada's disciples had started, spiritual sky incense, agarbatti. So they would roll these agarbattis in the temple and then they would go and sell on the streets. They made quite a bit of money with that. But it was their devotion, it was their austerity, their service, that Krishna was pleased with this business and he made them lots of profit. But while rolling these agarbattis, making these agarbattis, they would always be hearing about the glories of Krishna or his devotees. So somebody would be reading Bhagavatam and the rest everybody would be making the agarbattis. The Shastras recommend Smartavya Satatam Vishnu. Lord Vishnu should be remembered always, constantly. Vistamarteo Nanjatuchit. Vishnu should never be forgotten. That is the spiritual way of life, Smritya. This remembrance of the Lord can be continued if we hear about him constantly. It is therefore recommended in this verse, Mukunda Charitagreya Sidhuna. Sidhu means nectar. To hear about Krishna from Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita or similar authentic literature is to live in Krishna consciousness. Such concentration in Krishna consciousness can be achieved by persons who are strictly following the rules and regulative principles. We have recommended in our Krishna consciousness movement that a devotee chant 16 rounds on beads daily and follow the regulative principles. That will help the devotee be fixed in a spiritual advancement in life. So somewhere it is said that to be always able to remember Krishna, one has to be pure in thoughts. Purity in thoughts will come if we are pure in actions and in purity of eating food, purity of thinking properly, or purity of thinking, association. So everything is purity, everything is pure. Pure means Krishna conscious pure, not the other way. Like it's, suppose it's organic food, then it is pure. No, it should be Krishna conscious. Then it is easy to follow the principles and remember Krishna always. It is also stated in this verse that one can advance by controlling the senses, yama. By controlling the senses, one can become a Swami or Goswami. One who is therefore enjoying the super title, Swami or Goswami, must be very strict in controlling his senses. Indeed, he must be a master of his senses. This is possible when one does not desire any material sense gratification. If by chance the senses want to work independently, he must control them. If we simply practice avoiding material sense gratification, controlling the senses is automatically achieved. So simply practice avoiding material sense gratification. And how is it possible? When we engage the senses, give the higher taste to the senses. It's a process. It's a process. But now it depends upon how much effort we put in this process. Another important point mentioned in this connection is anindaya. We should not criticize others' methods of religion. There are different types of religious systems operating under different qualities of material nature. Those operating in the modes of ignorance and passion cannot be as perfect as that system in the mode of goodness. In Bhagavad Gita, everything has been divided into three qualitative divisions. Therefore, religious systems are similarly categorized. When people are mostly under the modes of passion and ignorance, their system of religion will be of the same quality. A devotee, instead of criticizing such systems, will encourage the followers to stick to their principles so that gradually they can come to the platform of religion in goodness. Simply by criticizing them, a devotee's mind will be agitated. Thus, a devotee should tolerate and learn to stop agitation. So, well, as I said earlier about meat eating, and if a religion promotes meat eating, that's not correct. Well, so Prabhupada is saying that different religions are in different modes of nature. So other religions could be in mode of ignorance and passion. But we cannot tell this to people, to followers of other religions. So somehow or other we have to preach without agitating them and without agitating ourselves. So it's very tricky, very, very tricky how to do that. And one thing for sure that works is, even if we don't have the right words, prasadam always works. So feed prasadam, feed some sweets or something, or even fruits. Offer fruits to Krishna and feed them. That will definitely slowly change their mentality. Another feature of the devotee is nirihaya, simple living. Niriha means gentle, meek, or simple. A devotee should not live very gorgeously and imitate a materialistic person. Plain living and high thinking are recommended for a devotee. He should accept only so much as he needs to keep the material body fit for the execution of devotional service. He should not eat or sleep more than is required. Simply eating for living and not living for eating, and sleeping only 6 to 7 hours a day are principles to be followed by devotees. 6 to 7 hours a day. That sounds like very luxurious sleeping, actually. But one has to cut down, that's all. Because sleep is what? Many times we say the body needs it, but more than the body, it is our ignorance, actually. Sleep is ignorance. In the sleep, we forget about who we are, who Krishna is. So it's complete ignorance. So more we advance, more we make advancement, more the sleep, more all these four activities, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, will go down. Because these are material activities. So one should be looking after these. Eating also, simple eating and less eating. Sleeping also one can curtail slowly, slowly. I'm not saying drastically do that, then there'll be problem with the body. But slowly, slowly one should cut down and engage more and more time in service of Krishna. As long as the body is there, it is subjected to the influence of climatic changes, diseases, and natural disturbances, the threefold miseries of material existence. We cannot avoid them. Sometimes we receive letters from neophyte devotees questioning why they have fallen sick, although pursuing Krishna consciousness. They should learn from this verse that they have to become tolerant. Dvandva titikshaya. This is the world of duality. One should not think that because he has fallen sick, he has fallen from Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness can continue without impediment from any material opposition. Lord Shri Krishna therefore advises in Bhagavad Gita, Tam Stitikshasva Bharat. My dear Arjuna, please try to tolerate all these disturbances. Be fixed in your Krishna conscious activities. So, if he has fallen sick, one should not think that because he has fallen sick, he has fallen from Krishna consciousness. But sometimes that is the mood of the devotees. More of the accompanying devotees, or the devotees in the circle, they say, oh, you've fallen sick, means you are not in the spiritual position. Your body is not spiritual. So means you have not made proper progress, means you have fallen down. This is immature understanding of bhakti. Krishna consciousness doesn't mean we are not going to get sick. Because one understanding is we are getting sick because of our karmas, bad karmas. So bad karmas are there because we're not doing bhakti. Bhakti means all the karmas are gone. Not all the karmas are gone, because this body that we have, material body that we have, it is a result of our karmas. So this body is still there, means all the karmas are not gone. So, like Prabhupada here is saying, one just tolerate and continue, carry on with this bhakti. That's all. हरेर मुहुस्तत् पर कर्णपूर गुणाभिधानेन विजृंभमाणया भक्त्या संग सद असत्यनात्मनि स्यान्निर्गुणे ब्रह्मणि चांजसारति. The devotee should gradually increase the culture of devotional service by constant hearing of the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These pastimes are like the ornamental decorations on the ears of devotees. By rendering devotional service and transcending the material qualities, one can easily be fixed in transcendence in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So hearing, so much of stress is given on hearing of the transcendental qualities, because doing that one can easily be fixed. This is the only way one can remain fixed up, nishtha. This verse is especially mentioned to substantiate the devotional process of hearing the subject matter. A devotee does not like to hear anything other than subjects dealing with spiritual activities or the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We can increase our propensity for devotional service by hearing Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from realized souls. The more we hear from realized souls, the more we make advancement in our devotional life. The more we advance in devotional life, the more we become detached from the material world. The more we become detached from the material world, as advised by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the more we increase in attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, a devotee who actually wants to make progress in devotional service and go back to Godhead must lose interest in sense enjoyment and associating with persons who are after money and sense gratification. This is the advice of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the whole process is given. More we hear, more we make advancement. More we make advancement, more we get detached. More we get detached, the more we increase in attachment for Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that increase in attachment means increase in affinity for hearing and chanting. The word Brahmani used in this verse is commented upon by the impersonalists or professional reciters of Bhagavatam, who are mainly associates of the caste system by demoniac birthright. They say that Brahmani means the impersonal Brahman, but they cannot conclude this with reference to the context of the words Bhakti and Guna Abhidhanena. So there is a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita that Prabhupada is quoting. And for the commentary, it's saying, according to impersonalists, there are no transcendental qualities in the impersonal Brahman. Therefore, we should understand that Brahmani means in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as admitted by Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, wherever the word Brahma is used, it must refer to Krishna. So Brahma or Parabrahma, Krishna, that is not to the impersonal Brahman effulgence. Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagwan can all be taken in total as Brahman, but when there is a reference to the word Bhakti or remembrance of the transcendental qualities, this indicates the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not the impersonal Brahman. So in the verse, when it says Syan Nirgune Brahmani Chanjasa Ratihi. So where the Brahmani word, because it came, the Prabhupada is saying, because previous to that is a Bhaktya Hiya Sangha. So when word Bhakti comes, it cannot be for Brahmjyoti. So here Brahmani means unto the Supreme Lord, not unto Brahmjyoti or Brahman effulgence. Because people can misunderstand this verse and they can make up their own meanings. Yada ratir brahmani naishtiki puman acharyavan gyan virag ramhasa dahatya viryam hirdayam jiva kosham panchatmakam yonim ivothito agnihi. Upon becoming fixed in his attachment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the grace of the spiritual master and by awakening knowledge and detachment, the living entity, situated within the heart of the body and covered by the five elements, burns up his material surroundings exactly as fire arising from wood burns the wood itself. It is said that both the Jivatma, individual soul, and Paramatma live together within the heart. In the Vedic version, it is stated, Hirdihi Ayam Atma. The soul and supersoul both live within the heart. The individual soul is liberated when it comes out of the material heart or cleanses the heart to make it spiritualized. The example given here is very appropriate. Agni of fire comes out of the wood, and by it the wood is completely destroyed. Similarly, when a living entity increases his attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is to be considered like fire. A blazing fire is visible by its exhibition of heat and light. Similarly, when the living entity within the heart becomes enlightened with full spiritual knowledge and detached from the material world, he burns up his material covering of the five elements, earth, water, fire, air, sky, and becomes free from the five kinds of material attachments, namely ignorance, false egoism, attachment to the material world, envy, and absorption in material consciousness. Therefore, Panchatmakam, as mentioned in this verse, refers to either the five elements or the five coverings of material contamination. When these are all burnt into ashes by the blazing fire of knowledge and detachment, One is fixed firmly in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless one takes shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and advances one's attraction for Krishna by the spiritual master's instructions, the five coverings of the living entity cannot be uncovered from the material heart. So a nice example is given. Fire comes out of the wood, but in the end it burns the very wood it came out of. So more we make advancement on the path of bhakti, so this wood, or the body, is made of five elements. All these five elements, so one becomes completely detached, or these five elements actually become spiritualized. So the material properties of these five elements are completely burnt. One must take shelter of bona fide spiritual master and by his instruction increase one's knowledge in devotional service, become detached from the material world and thus become liberated. An advanced devotee therefore does not live within the material body, but within his spiritual body, just as a dry coconut lives detached from the coconut husk, even though within the husk. So coconut, when it is dry, when you shake the coconut, it makes sound inside because of the pulp has been separated from the shell. So similarly, a devotee who is advanced devotee, he does not live within the material body, but within the spiritual body. Although the outside covering remains of the material body, but actually his spiritual body has developed. And the spiritual body might not look like a human being. It may be a peacock. I'm just giving an example. The spiritual body can grow within this material body. It depends upon our performance or our following the devotional service principles. Pure devotee's body is therefore called Chinmaya Sharir. In other words, a devotee's body is not connected with material activities. And as such, a devotee is always liberated. Brahma Bhuyai Kalpate. So in connection to this, Sandeep Prabhu had asked this question. He wrote to me. Then why a soul suffers in the material body? Body itself, the senses, the material elements, they are dead. They are dead matter. Because as soon as the soul leaves the body, we bury the body, or we cremate the body, or somebody can bury the body, somebody can throw it to the vultures, do anything to it, cut it to pieces, do anything. Nothing will happen. Nobody will retaliate or cry or try to save himself. The dead body doesn't do that. And the soul cannot be cut to pieces. Soul cannot be burned or moistened. That's what it says in Bhagavad Gita. So when somebody hits this body now, when the soul is in it, why does it hurt? It hurts because we think we are this body. Our consciousness is that I am this body. I'm man, I'm woman, I'm animal, I'm Indian, I'm American, I'm Punjabi, and I'm Gujarati, and I'm this and I'm that. As long as this consciousness goes, there will be pains and pleasures related to the body. That is why for the yogis, even for devotees are even better yogis. But if we take the example of yogis when they do tapasya, they do tapasya in very difficult conditions. It's not what is done these days. You cannot just sit in an air conditioned yoga studio and thinking we are doing yoga. It's not yoga. So the real yoga is when he goes into the forest and makes his yogasana. And even in the middle of summer, he puts fire all around on the ground, and then he sits in the middle and does his tapasya. And in winter, he enters the river, chilled, cold water, and does his yoga. Because then he goes beyond this bodily concept of life, that he is not this body. And actually, we are not this body, but our consciousness is, I am this body. That's why it suffers. But the yogis, they come to the level, nothing bothers them. That's why you can see in some videos now that in Himalayas, there are yogis, minus whatever 30, 40 degrees centigrade temperature, and they're just wearing one loin cloth, one kopin, and that's it. And they're doing their yoga. Some immature people say, oh, because they smoke ganja and that's why their body remains hot. No, you can smoke ganja and tell me how long you're going to sit in the snow naked. It's not the smoking of ganja. They've come to this level. And then obviously they have now this yogic siddhis or yogic shaktis, so they can maintain the body. So as long as we are in this concept of life, that I am this body, it will give us pains and pleasures, mostly pains. If anything happens to the body, whether mental, emotional level or physical level, it's going to hurt. And in fact, when Yamdutas come, the gross body is left here, and they take the soul and the subtle body. Now you cannot beat up the soul and the subtle body, and they have to give punishment. So they give one yatana deh, punishment body, to the soul, is awarded right then and there. And they have to take it, punish it, drag it, beat him up, all the way to Yamaloka. 99,000 miles away. So that's what they did. So we get this suffering because we think we are this body. Not just think, we are conscious that I am this body. So this is what bhakti does, is remove that consciousness. For the yogis, the consciousness is removed that I am this body, but the new consciousness has to be there, that I am servant of Krishna. I have relationship with Krishna. So bhakti process develops that consciousness, Krishna consciousness, that relationship with Krishna, that mode of service is awakened. It's there that service is eternal, the relationship is eternal, but we have forgotten it because we are thinking I am this body. So this is what here it says. Whatever his condition may be, one who is engaged fully with his body, mind, and speech in the service of the Lord is liberated, even within this body. So this body, human body, it has a special facility, higher intelligence, developed consciousness, so we can engage this body in the service of Krishna. Body, mind, and speech, everything can be used in the service of Krishna. And that's the real position of the soul. So we keep on serving, keep on serving, keep on serving, working on it, and slowly, slowly, slowly we'll make advancement to come to the level of, then we understand, I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul and I'm a servant of Krishna. And I should be using this body in the service of Krishna only. So that's all the bhakti process is. But in this process, not only that we use our intelligence, our body, and make progress, we get the mercy of Guru, mercy of Vaishnavas, mercy of the Lord. And then we make rapid progress. So that's all. So we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for such a
Thank
nice
you.
explanation. It was by question why the soul is not why body suffers or why soul suffers. I was a bit confused, and I asked him also. He also not had the answer. That's why I put the whole message to you.
That's okay. You can ask. But I wanted everybody to hear, so that's why I didn't write down the answer.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. I know that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Okay, so I guess we can stop here. You all have a wonderful and safe day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri